So I made this wooden palm tree on the scroll saw using a piece of construction lumber and a template I designed. It's one of those projects that looks more complicated than it actually is. So this piece of wood is 1.5 inches thick by 9 1/4, so it's a 2x10. I designed this template and then I printed it on a full-size adhesive label. The template turned out to be a bit too big for this piece of wood, and I could have just cut a bigger piece, but this was scrap and I wanted to use it up. So I just kind of modified my template so that it would fit. This part's really simple. I just peel off the backing and the label is adhesive, so I just stick it on there and then I roll it down to make sure that it adheres to the wood properly. I feel like this is one of the best methods to transfer a design onto a piece of wood. The key thing is really rolling it down. I trim off the excess to make it more manageable, and then I roll down the edges too. That minimizes the lifting when you're working on the scroll saw, because sometimes what could happen is the sawdust can get into the edges and then it starts lifting, so you got to make sure you roll it down. I brought out my scroll saw and I already had a spiral blade in there, so I just tensioned it up. The good thing about spiral blades is that you can move the workpiece in any direction. You're not locked into just cutting forward. It takes a bit of practice, but projects like this are perfect for learning how to do that. You don't have to follow the pattern exactly. If something looks tricky or you think it's going to produce a part that's too fragile, you can just alter your cut. You don't have to stick to the template. Now, I ended up breaking my blade, which is always a bit frustrating because it kind of screws up the flow. But you can see here, the blade is really thin and it's inevitable that it will eventually break. But I grabbed a new one off my French cleat wall and I fed it up through the bottom, through the workpiece, and then reconnected it and reapplied the tension. I've always really liked the scroll saw, not just because you can make some pretty cool things, but I feel like it's one of the safest powered saws you could use in a workshop. It's a really good way to get into woodworking. So this fresh blade is cutting much better, and you can see that I'm not just cutting forward, I'm cutting backwards, I'm moving the piece side to side. You can cut in any direction that you want with these spiral blades. And this right here is my favorite part, popping out the piece and seeing the reveal. Alright, so we got to remove the template sticker from the wood, and to do that I like to use mineral spirits or paint thinner. You just rub it on there with a rag and let it sit for a minute, and then it comes off and it doesn't leave any residue. Alright, so we're moving on to sanding. I'm just putting down a piece of leather so that the piece doesn't slide around, and I'm using a power sander, and then this is a detailed pencil style sander to get some of the more intricate parts. And for the final step, I'm using Tung Oil to finish this piece. I like Tung Oil because it gives a nice amber hue to the wood, and it just makes it look warm and pleasant. Alright, this is how it turned out. Honestly, I'm really happy with this one. If you want to see the full build, like all of it from start to finish, I live streamed the whole thing and the replay is on my channel.